Born in 1945, this reggae icon spent his early years in the little town of 9 Mile St. Anne, which later became a historic landmark. He is said to be one of the pioneers of the great reggae music, which we all know, and he certainly put Jamaica on the map. Today, February 6, we celebrate the great Robert Nesta Marley, who we all know as Bob Marley, on what would have been his 78th birthday. It's Black History and Reggae Month, and with that being said, today's show will go back in time and pay tribute to the musical legend and the history of reggae music. I'm Theodore Henry, your host for today's Jamaica Magazine. Stick around, you don't want to miss it.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, February 6, 2023. Government will be amending the Road Traffic Act and regulations to reinforce public transportation safety for children and the wider public. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave the assurance on Friday after several operators of public passenger vehicles took the decision not to transport children under the age of 12. This was in response to stipulations under the law for the installation of child restraint systems. Under the Act, motorists who refuse to comply with the regulation can be fined $5,000.
We have decided that we will make some amendments to the law, and we will do so as quickly as possible. It may come in the form of amendments to the regulations, which can be done very quickly by a ministerial direction, which may not necessarily need to go to Parliament, or if it does, as soon as possible in Parliament.
Prime Minister Holness says that until the amendments are made, the government will support the Jamaica Constabulary Force's decision to exercise greater discretion in allowing PPV drivers to transport children without the restraint system.
The police will exercise a certain level of discretion on this matter and will police it as it was under the old Act.
The Prime Minister says amendments will initially be made to the 2022 road traffic regulations and thereafter the Act. This may come in a month or two, or depending on how fast stakeholders move with consultations and further deliberations. Meanwhile, members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, have received training to enforce changes under the Road Traffic Act and regulations. During a two-day sensitization session last week, officers discussed scenarios and disputes that may arise while enforcing the law. A travel document is also being prepared to guide officers through the fines and procedures of the Act and regulations. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says while the changes include a number of sectors, such as transport, the judiciary, and the tax office, the police is the face of the ticketing system. Hence, the necessity for training to have the correct information and attitude.
Ultimately, in the early stages, we're going to have to be spending a lot of time guiding persons who we interact with and what is correct. And so it's important that we know, and also even as we deliver those tickets, it's important that we have the correct sort of interactions with the public.
State Minister for National Security Xavier Main is imploring motorists to abide by the rules, which he says is a step towards reducing the high level of indiscipline and restoring public order in the society.
It is ignoring these less serious offenses, such as breaching the road code, that leads to the ultimate breakdown of order within our society, and the trend continues.
Government will be spending $350 million to construct 24 housing units at St. Paul's Lane in Tower Hill, St. Andrew. Scheduled for completion by June 2023, the housing project will significantly improve the living conditions of families in the area. It is a collaborative effort involving the Housing Agency of Jamaica, the National Housing Trust, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, the National Water Commission, and Astrom Building Systems Limited. It is part of a program of integrated community development, which will include access to basic infrastructure such as roads, water, and sewerage systems. Addressing residents during a sensitization session in the community last Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the government was serious about transforming communities and the lives of Jamaicans.
We are not just going to build new homes, we're going to put in pathways and a roadway. We're going to take down the zinc fences that have become such a symbol of urban blight and poverty. We're going to take those zinc fences and replace them. We have already run some electricity infrastructure in place, and we are putting in the sewage infrastructure to make sure that you have a sustainable community.
The Prime Minister says that following completion of the units, work will commence on the construction of a Golden Age home and an infant school. He says land and funding have already been identified for the Golden Age home. Jamaica's Foreign Trade Action Plan, JAM Trade, is being reviewed to be more flexible and able to adjust to global changes. Consultations are to be held with public and private sector groups, academia, and civil society to examine mechanisms that are available to advance trade and related matters. JAM Trade, which replaced the Jamaica Trade Adjustment Team, JTAT, in 2019, outlines general policy direction, implementation priorities, and strategies. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, says partnering with the private sector in the review process is important for pursuing a transformational trade policy agenda.
Today, we are once again standing on the cusp of a major shift in global and regional trade, where we must be proactive and turn challenges into opportunities. So you, private sector, you are critical to this process. We are the talk and the framers. You are the doers. You are the implementers. And therefore, your role and your partnership is absolutely critical to this process. But we all must be prepared to think, and this includes government, in a more innovative and dynamic way than we may have been required in the past.
Minister Johnson-Smith was speaking last week at a meeting with the Jamaica Trade Policy Advisory Group. She advised that the ministry would be seeking a new and dynamic approach to the development of a regional trade policy. This is to be done within the context of CARICOM and its Single Market and Economy CSME. And finally, the Pharmaceutical Society of Jamaica, PSJ, is appealing to Jamaicans not to source prescription drugs from questionable and non-registered sources. Immediate past President Dr. Ernestine Watson says the PSJ is concerned about the sale of counterfeit drugs, which is a major issue in Jamaica and a matter that is being taken very seriously. She was speaking at a JIS think tank.
Why should you go to a pharmacy to fill your prescription? We want to discourage persons from getting the medications on the street, buying it from sources that are not legal. We want persons to be aware that not all drugs are good for you. There are counterfeit drugs, and so when you need your medication, the Ministry of Health, through the National Health Fund, gives us affordable drugs. Pharmacies are available.
Dr. Watson emphasizes that all places where prescription drugs are sold must be registered with the Pharmacy Council of Jamaica. There is an ongoing registration process, and pharmacies and pharmacists are required by law to renew their registration annually. It is also a legal requirement for the license to be displayed at the place where pharmaceuticals are sold. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
He made a name for himself, his country, and his people on both the local and international scenes, bringing forth light and consciousness to societal relations. His memory definitely continues to live on through his lifelong work and dedication to his music.
It is unquestionable that Robert Nesta Marley was a musical genius, a prolific songwriter, and indeed a legend. Bob Marley rose from humble beginnings to international acclaim. He is the best-known Jamaican, and that is no easy achievement. He is Jamaica's foremost cultural icon, and what he has achieved is quite phenomenal in terms of our cultural heritage. Bob was as much a peacemaker as he was a revolutionary. He was the voice through which many persons could vent their feelings.
All pirates, yes, they rob by, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But I'm not so good at talking, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Well, I'm trying to say, could we have up here, on stage here, the presence of Mr. Michael Manley and Mr. Edward Seattle. Oh! I just want to shake hands and show the people that we're gonna meet them right. We're gonna unite. We're gonna meet them right. We got to unite. Get.
He took reggae music along with Rastafarianism to the world, penetrating social, cultural, and racial barriers.
Just for a moment, I think he got it tangled there, but there it goes. The Zimbabwe national flag.
Every man got a right to decide his own destiny. And in this judgment there is no partiality. So arm in arms, with arms, we'll fight this little struggle, children. That's the only way we can overcome a little trouble. And brother, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're so right. We gon' fight, we'll have to fight, we gonna fight, fight it for rights. Not the mash it in a Zimbabwe, put the treaty go in a Zimbabwe. Africans are liberate Zimbabwe, I liberate Zimbabwe. No more.
Today, reggae is internationally acceptable, and so too are Rastafarians.
Dreadlock Rasta, it was a buffalo soldier in the heart of America.
You know, I wouldn't say that the Rastafarians have a bad reputation. I would say people give the Rastafarians bad reputation.
Chris Blackwell, who managed Bob for many years, says Bob was a man of the people.
Well, he was a real leader, a real folk leader in the real sense. He was really that, you know. He never changed from that. He never essentially changed as a person at all. He was the same person all the time, essentially. When he got his fancy car, BMW, you know, which he said was rightfully his, it stood for Bob Marley and the Wailers. But when he would drive into the ghetto, he would never lock the car. You know, he would just get out of it, even if the window's open or whatever. He never separated himself from the people.
Bob's impact on the world is far-reaching. So powerful it was that the Jamaica Tourist Board has been using his One Love song to market Jamaica since 1992.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel love. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Liven up yourself. Come on, children. Liven up yourself.
Bob's passage was like a comet, brief and memorable.
This morning, smile with the rising sun. Really the bird is by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, this is my message to you. Singing, don't worry about a thing. This could be the first trumpet, might as well be the last. Many more will have to suffer, many more will have to die. Don't ask me why. Things are not the way they used to be here. I won't tell no lie. One and all got to face reality, yeah. Though I try to find the answer to all the questions they ask, yet I know it's impossible to go living through the past. Don't tell no lie. There's a natural mystic flowing through the air.
One of Bob's early singing partners, Bunny Livingston, a member of the Wailers, pays tribute to him.
Well, you know that in this business there's a lot of singers that come and go. You know, and sometimes when a singer goes, his works go with him. But in Bob Marley, it's different. When he goes, it's like he starts living, because the things that came out of him were eternal.
Bob became larger in death than he was in life. It was not only the popularity and financial success that he had, but he set a standard for musicians to aspire to. His legacy is manifold. He left us a legacy of struggle, a legacy of triumph, and a legacy of hope. His contribution is strongly recognized, and he is celebrated in many ways. His statue stands tall in Kingston. The week in which his birthday, February 6, falls, is celebrated as Bob Marley Week.
I'm gonna be iron like a lion in Zion. I'm gonna be iron like a lion in Zion.
Originating out of Jamaica in the late 1960s, reggae music has set the foundation and remained at the center of the Jamaican culture. Up next, we hear the story behind its origin.
If reggae can ever be edged to a set place, then 13 Brentford Road is its home. It was here at Studio One in 1968 that Rocksteady briefly went back 20 years, married the folk rhythms of Mento, and gave birth to reggae.
Up to 8, 6, then reggae.
The guitar led the reggae music orchestra, and the bass maintained the melodic patterns in the background. It is interesting to note that even though the fusion would change the course of local music history forever, it was to be one of its most celebrated strokes of luck.
No, I didn't really want to give out this piece of information, but since we're at it, I won't be mean. Clement Dad brought a piece of machinery to the studio for about a year. It was sitting there. And no one knew exactly what to do with it. And so they hooked it up one day and decided to implement it. And they discovered it was a tape delay. And so they hooked it into the machine and they started doing it into the recording. So when they put the guitar sound through the tape delay, it comes back saying that chak, 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 chak. The rest of studios hearing this recording out, they thought it was the guitar making that and just copied that, and that was the birth of reggae music.
Jackie Mitu invited Larry Marshall to try out on the new sound. The experiment yielded Nanny Goat and Baby Tell Me Why. But it was Toots and the Maytals, Do the Reggae, that christened the music form forever. Reggae would deliver dance crowds from the sluggish rocksteady beat. The people needed a change in pace. Reggae upped the tempo. Reggae turned up the heat on some of the social and economic challenges that the people were facing. It premiered as the voice of the people. Reggae was a potent messenger for the Rastafari philosophy, which single-handedly cemented the music form as a cornerstone of Jamaican culture. Bob Marley was one of them who took to the music and the teachings. Marley had been around from the ska era. In 1961, he and a couple of his brethren, Peter Tosh and Bunny Livingston, formed the Rude Boys, which later became known as the Wailers. The teachings were often put to music in either Sir Coxson's Studio One or Duke Reid's Treasure Isle recording studios. The recording sessions overflowed with free-spiritedness and an abundance of talent. Hits were made by ear.
Studio One happens to be the station.
Studio One is widely regarded as the mecca of reggae music.
Studio One is called the University of Reggae Music.
And as an artist, if you didn't work your way through that university, you would not be a complete artist. This is the Motown of the Caribbean. Everything started right here, so right now you have to give a lot of respect to Mr. Dodd because he had a very good ear for music.
The local music industry learned the rudiments of music distribution as early as the 1940s, when English fans showed a willingness to buy its R&B covers. When American rhythm and blues were hard to come by, sound system owners Duke Reed and Sir Coxsone Dodd got artists like Stanley Motto to make their own. With the advent of a global village through the economic, social and political phenomenon called globalization, it is now beyond one's mental facets, where this world-shaking cultural mystique known to humanity as simply reggae will take Jamaica, land we love. Whithersoever it goes, we go.
This is Ibo Cooper of Third World, lecturer at Edna Manley College, chairman of Jamaica Reggae Industry Association, saying to Jamaica, whether young or old, look around you and see what you have right throughout the year. I have now filled out 9 passports with traveling, and I've been to every corner of the earth, and there are people who would want what we have. They beg me to come to Jamaica because right now in the Middle East is war. Right now in the North is ice. We have a beautiful place. Please preserve it. Love one another. Like what my granny did tell me to love people. The lady who don't have nothing to eat, a shut in, make sure she alright. The people them who can walk like me and you, make sure them alright. I see a youth the other day try to rob a blind man. My youth, what you do? We couldn't do them thing there. Help the blind. Help the pregnant lady. Love, you can't beat it.
Let's join hands and hearts together and make Jamaica a land of love.
That's all the time we have with you today, but don't worry because every little thing will be all right. Just add the tune to that. Throughout the rest of February, expect lots more features on covering our culture and our people. And I hope you learned a lot from today's show. If you happen to miss it though, be sure to visit our website, jis.gov.jm, to catch up on this and so much more. And while you're at it, remember to download our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible to have more information while you're on the go. I'm Theodore Henry from the production team here at the JIS. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.